Okay, welcome everybody. Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Balizan, and welcome to Take Charge of Your Health. Simple things you can do today to take control of your physical and mental health. And today I have with me Ari, who does a lot of great work with body work and kinesiology, and has been a speaker, an author, and a host of other things. And so, welcome, Ari.
Thank you. Nice to have this opportunity.
I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. So tell me a little bit, because let's start off with that big word, kinesiology. That's a word that not a lot of people know. So can you explain that just a little bit?
Yeah, kinesiology in very layman's terms is the study of movement. So how your ankle moves to your knee, to your hip, to the rest of your body. It's a study of movement. And there's been a lot of interesting work done in different forms of kinesiology, but the basic term is just study of kinesthetic movement. And so there's AK, which is applied kinesiology, educational kinesiology. There's a lot of different kinds.
Excellent. Excellent. So I think and movement is one thing that we can do simple each day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the easiest things to do because there's almost never a time, including while you're sleeping, that you're not moving.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So tell me a little bit about, how did you get started in the health industry?
That's a long story, sweetie, but let me try to surmise it. I was 18 years old, and I had been working. I had already gotten my degrees, or certificates, I should say, in aromatherapy and Master of Herbology, and I went to a homeopathic doctor or naturopath, and was given snake venom as a homeopathic remedy. And what I didn't realize was that snake venom does not like when you get no sleep and go out in a lot of heat. And so I went whitewater rafting with no sleep while taking that, and then, drinking caffeine, and I ended up dead. And I was dead for 26 minutes by the time I got to the hospital before they revived me. And about 3 days later, I woke up in the hospital, and I sat up and I said, I think I need to become a healer. So that's a really short version, but
Yeah, that's definitely something to jog your system and say, okay, I need to do something different. Wow.
yeah. I had, I grew up, I had a brain tumor growing up. I still have a brain tumor, and I'd been an athlete. So I'd been going to chiropractors and therapists since I was 5 years old. And so I just kind of, it fell into my lap, so to speak.
Very good. So since we are talking about health, and we have health is basically, if we don't have our health, we don't have much. Tell me a little bit about some of your long-term health goals.
Well, I've recently lost approximately 140 pounds. Doctors have told me that I would never lose weight until I was dead because of the tumor and what it does hormonally to my body. And so part of my studies included functional medicine, and that's only been like a fairly recent kind of a practice. And so as I started studying the functional medicine, which is all about going to root causes versus taking care of symptoms, that's been one of my goals, is to get my own hormonal health, chemical health, those kinds of things really in order. And so part of that was dropping 140 pounds. I'm still not where I want to be yet, but close, and at least a lot closer than I've ever been. And the only other parts of my health that I want to get back is, and it kind of goes along the same lines, joint health, get rid of the inflammation and autoimmune responses so that I could be in a lot less physical pain, which causes a lot of the emotional pain as well. So
Right.
personal goals.
Okay. So you talked about emotional pain. So let's talk about a little bit about what you do with emotional pain and emotional release. How do you help people with that?
Well, there's a saying in our field that the issues are in the tissues. And that is really quite profound and true. We store all of our traumatic experiences in our body. If you look at like when you're feeling, somebody has just done you wrong, it's like a gut punch, right? You feel it in your gut. You feel things in your heart. You feel things in your muscles and in your body. And so what I've done is take all of the years of physical training that I have, which includes a lot of the sports medicine and those kind of things, mixed it with the mental training of hypnotherapy and NLP and EFT and all those kinds of things, and then combine that with a very, to me, it's like if you're 100% present with no agenda with your client while you're doing the work on them, they're going to have an emotional response to the release of their muscle pain, to the release of the tissues, the toxins coming out of their bodies. And so I've learned how to take myself out of the equation so that I can have no agenda, but be there exactly for what the person needs. And that gives me the ability to emotionally release some of these pains that are going on in the body, but they're really traumatic experiences that somebody has had, and release those for good rather than like talk therapy. And I'm not going to say anything negative about talk therapy, but it's it's more time consuming. Let's just put it that way. It takes a lot of time to talk things out and get the cognitive response. But if you can get the tissues where they're at, now you're having an empathetic response to a traumatic experience that's holding itself in pain places. And all of a sudden those things get to release. And, it's funny. I've had, I don't know how many clients who just start crying on the table, and I might be just holding them, like holding their head or holding a part of their arm or a leg. And all of a sudden tears start flowing. Yeah. And it's because I have no agenda with them. I'm not there to do anything to them. I'm there for their own release. So I use the physical world of touch, combine it with the spiritual world of empathy and connection, and that allows for a full release of emotional trauma that is held in the somatic tissue.
That's wonderful. And I think more of us hold emotional trauma than we care to admit, because we learn things as a child growing up. We may have gone through a traumatic experience. We may have been in a traumatic experience, as an adult or as a teenager, and we hold on to that subconsciously, not realizing that we do. And until something else triggers it, sometimes it doesn't pop up. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. And then it's like the perfect storm. And then you've got to find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah. If I could tell you a little story, I was in a class once, yeah. And we walk into the class and there's a whole bunch of balloons blown up. And the first assignment that we have of the day is to sit on the balloons and not have them pop. And people would sit, it was a class of like 8 or 9 people, and they would sit on it, and everyone that popped, the teacher would say, "You were spanked when you were a kid." And they said, "Yes, I was." "You were spanked when you were a kid." "Yes, I was." The people who did not pop were not spanked as kids. And what was interesting is it's all about like where you put your energy. So, and where energy flows and where energy does not flow. So if you get spanked a lot when you're a kid, and you've now energetically moved out of that area, numbed it, so to speak, emotionally, you're going to be dense in that area. And when you sit on a balloon, it's going to pop. So we were doing work through this class where we got to a point where we all went out on a gravel road at the end of the class where there are huge rocks everywhere. And we're all sitting on the balloons, basically like we're levitating. It was kind of cool. It was interesting because we had cleared those somatic traumas in the class. And so we were able to then sit on the energy field rather than the denseness of our butts, basically. And it was really cool. It was a cool class.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't imagine. I think I would probably pop the balloon right away. I just feel like it, but that's amazing. I would love to try that sometime. I'm gonna have to do that. So tell me, with the body work and things and the movement, sports therapy. I'm sure you work with more than just athletes, but can you tell me a little bit about, the education that you teach to those that come in, whether you do body work with them, what education goes along with that so that they can sustain?
Gotcha. So I've created a continuing education program that is for chiropractors, PTs, personal trainers, massage therapists, really anybody who touches, plays with, or trains a body's physical performance. And the reason why I did that is because I had the benefit of learning a huge amount of modalities. And what I found is that I kept having to go from one place to another place, to another place, to another place to get the same kind of care that I would give in my place. And I found that, that's a lot of waiting rooms, a lot of drive time, a lot of expense, extra expense. And then I wasn't getting the benefit that I was seeing my clients get. And so I created this course to wrap around all of the professions so that they could learn pieces of what the other professions do, thereby, even if they're not going to practice, like let's say it's a chiropractor and who has a massage therapist who works for the chiropractor, right?
Yeah.
So now the chiropractor can show the massage therapist what he needs or she needs in order for that patient, in order for them to get better, rather than just saying, okay, go get a massage, right? And not knowing if the massage is going to be effective for, say, your cervical, neck, and your lumbar that's out, or it's not going to help necessarily the muscles that are specific to the injury, right? So same thing with PT. PTs, deal with joints. Massage therapists deal with muscles. Chiropractors deal with bones and nervous system. It's all very disconnected. And my goal is to connect the professions in language and deed so that we can collaborate more and just get better results for our clients and patients. That's the main goal, is we want to be of service and help people get healthier. So why not take a class that allows you to not only know how to communicate with somebody, but also knows some of their techniques, some of the things that they do, so that you're well aware of what's going to benefit your clients and patients. And then you can create programs, which is one of the things that we have in the classes, program design and development. It's something that's very rare. You go to any doctor really these days, and you don't have them asking enough questions to then be able to come back to you a week later and say, okay, here's our plan of action. This is what we're going to do. This is going to be step by step. We're going to reassess here. We're going to reassess here. We're going to do this in a way that's going to make sure that you get the result that you're after. And I like getting results. Results to me are more important than procedures. And so this class is really designed for that. And I do have the mindset at the end and at the beginning. So I do like a guided meditation with their hands on a body, which is really cool. They're blindfolded, so they can't see, and they have to smell, they have to hear, they have to listen. They have to really develop those other senses, the senses of the fingers and touch, so that they know what's going on in the person. And then at the very end, I do another meditation which is for the practitioner, and for them to have the confidence going forward in their business so that they can get the results all the time, every time.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I think that is that's a key piece that is missing, and um, I vote for, you know, a unity between practitioners and patients, and I believe that includes, you know, your massage therapist and your chiropractor and physical therapist. I love that, because that's one thing that I really think you've got to have the patient in the center and everybody else surrounding, working together. And I think that that's one thing that's been a challenge to our healthcare system, still a challenge today, but as we go and continue to educate, maybe we'll be able to get that, you know, going and educate more and more, and realize that, you know what, it really is a well-rounded picture.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I try not to demonize any one particular field. You know, Western medicine is an amazing set of sciences for emergency medicine, but they have not quite gotten it on the chronic illness level. You know, they're woefully diminished in that capacity. So the problem is that the language that people use in alternative medicine is a completely different language than they use in Western medicine. And until we learn how to communicate together, we'll never get the integration the way we need it to be. And so part of my goal and part of what I like to do is bridge those gaps, make sure that we know the language, we know how to speak their language, because if we can speak their language, and they can understand what we're talking about, and they can then see the difference that we make. Now, all of a sudden, we have allies instead of enemies, and we have patients who get great results versus patients who, in some cases, don't get any results. Some cases, they just get worse, and sometimes it's just minuscule, you know, minuscule benefit.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm known for is actually intertwining. I say Eastern and Western, I say ancient and modern medicine, because I think there's a place, you know, as a pharmacist, I come from the Western medicine train, but yet I've learned that Eastern supplements and alternative medicine, it plays a role, and we absolutely need to be able to combine them and combine the language, because yes, that is definitely a barrier between, I think, different practitioners, and I love that, you know, if we can just keep spreading that message and be able to combine them, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So as a pharmacist, you know, you're privy to information most people don't know, which is that most of the pharmaceutical medicines come from plants.
That's right.
And, you know, the plants typically have less side effects than the pharmaceuticals. Sometimes they might be stronger, right? The pharmaceutical might be a stronger version or a concentrated version of the plant, but most of the pharmaceuticals come from plant matter.
That is true.
And trees, leaves, right? And
Yep.
so that is one way that, you know, doctors don't necessarily know that. Pharmacists do, but doctors don't necessarily know that. So when people say, well, that herb has never been studied scientifically in a double blind, I'm like, you know that's what's in valerian, right? Or Valium is valerian root. You know that what's in that is an herb, is a supplement.
That's right. Yeah, it's true. Most medications they are plants, or they were started from plants. Some of them have been synthesized to be synthetic now. But yeah, I mean, it started from that herbal plant, and there's a place for that. The thing that, you know, that I caution, because as a pharmacist, I caution, is getting a good quality, because when we want to do those supplements, there's not a lot of there's a vast universe of the supplement world when you go into that. And most of them that you can buy off the shelf are not worth their weight in salt or whatever, you know. It's just because they're not there. They don't have the right ingredients. They've got a lot of fillers. they may say they have 100 milligrams of something, and really when you do a study, there's like nothing of that particular active ingredient. So when supplements are used, I just caution people to, trust somebody who's reputable and get a high quality supplement so you're not just throwing your money away.
I always tell people, don't ever go to a store to buy a supplement. Go to your doctor, go to your chiropractor, go to somebody who gets physician-based pharmaceutical grade supplements, because the pharmaceutical grade supplements, they're not dusting. That's kind of what you were saying. That's a term in the supplement industry, is dusting. They'll take a really high quality herb or supplement, and they'll what's called dust it, just so that they can put it on the label. But that doesn't mean it's the active ingredient or that it's very active at all. And so when people go to, a pharmaceutical grade supplement, that every pill is exact, that it's been tested by GMP standards, that it's got the things in it in the amounts that they say. And so that's definitely a good caution. I appreciate that you say that.
Yeah, well, more than 50% of the population takes a supplement. They're probably not all taking the right ones, because we see stores. I go into the store, and the shelves are being picked for supplements, and I can tell you that's not the right way. Cheaper is not always better. So yes, I definitely agree. Getting a good pharmaceutical grade supplement, is one that follows those good manufacturing practices, the GMP that you mentioned, and that is definitely something I always look at before I recommend anything. So one thing I want to talk about, and I think this is part of this is going to be your gift, and there'll be a link at the top here in just shortly. But let's talk about your latest book, A New Tomorrow, and tell me, because I love that in there that you're talking about society, you're talking about the healthcare system, or the lack thereof of the infrastructure of the healthcare system. So talk to us a little bit about that, and then tell us what you're going to give us.
All right, so I'm going to just show you the book.
Okay.
It's a really beautiful cover.
Yes.
And it says at the bottom, activating your vision for a better world. So one of my statements that I like to make, that I almost always see people go, yeah, that's true, but they never thought of it before, is we made it up. We can make it better. So when I hear people complaining about this system as it is, I say, yeah, but we made it up and we can do better. We created the society the way that it is based on the values that we hold in as a collective society. We can do better. And so this book is really about how do we go about the process of defining what we can do better, what we don't like, what's suboptimal, what lacks performance, and then create the ways in which to create performance. So I do base it a lot on the healthcare system, because to me, that's like, well, it's my world, right? Mm-hmm. But what did medicine start with? I used to do this talk about the future of medicine, and half of the talk was about the past. So, the medicine began with infrastructure, creating infrastructure, roads, waterways, aqueducts, things to move waste product out of the environment where people were living in. Because, you could have a bedroom, on the other side is the pig pen, and all of a sudden you're getting sick. Well, why are you getting sick? Because all the waste is seeping through, right? So we created aqueducts, we created infrastructure in order to move toxic waste away from people so that they weren't getting sick from it. So healthcare didn't begin as a symptom, taking care of symptoms. It began as taking care of causes. What's causing this? So my thing is, let's get back to taking care of all the causes. Emotional stress, we know this. Stress is like one of the number one causes of all illnesses. So how do we develop our society so that it's less stressful for people? How do we create an environment around us that is soothing instead of everything going by at 50 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour, right?
Yep.
So what this book does is wherever your passion lies, you're going to get kind of a roadmap for how to begin the process of living your passion and making a difference in the world so that we can make a better tomorrow, so that we can activate that vision and create a better world for ourselves. And so I'm giving away the first chapter of the book. In that first chapter, I'll just kind of give you kind of mindset, critical thinking, a 360-degree view, which is kind of like saying a 50,000-foot view. So you're up above looking down. Butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is really important in this because where is it that the actions we do today affect all the actions that are coming after it? And so, you know, butterfly flaps his wings and a hurricane develops across the world. Where's the consequences to our actions, and how do we go about the process in our minds when we're planning of calculating those risks and those consequences, making sure the consequences are less than instead of more than, et cetera. And then finding the root, so looking for the cause, and then what are your options? What do you do next? So that's just the first chapter.
That's awesome. That's an awesome gift. Thank you so much. So let me ask you one final question, because this is Take Charge of Your Health and a simple step you can do today. So let's give our viewers one little simple nugget that they can do today, and you can pick any of the things we've talked about that they could take away today, and they could make an impact on their health.
All right. So a lot of us are sitting around our desks all day long, okay? And we very rarely get up and move around, right? So we started off with movement at the beginning. We're going to end up with some movement at the end. So the first thing I want all the people watching to do is while they're sitting, take a deep breath. So in through your nose, take a deep breath. Right?
Yes.
Feel how much volume you get. Now stand up and take another deep breath. You don't have to, Melissa, but stand up and take another deep breath. How much more oxygen did you just get than you did while you were sitting? When we sit down, our diaphragm goes up into our lungs. We cut off about half our lung capacity. So we're literally working every day trying to focus with half the oxygen in our brains.
Yep.
Okay. So if we can get up, move at least every 50 minutes. I like to get up about every 30 at least, but at least every 50 minutes. Get up for 2 minutes, breathe deeply, move your body around a little bit, stretch out, right? And then sit back down and work. See how much more productive you'll be. See how much better you'll feel. See how much more oxygenation helps your organs function better, helps your stress response, helps all of those things. So this is one really small little thing that makes huge impact, is being able to breathe a full diaphragm breath with your entire body extended, right? That happens when you stand up, takes your diaphragm off of that section of your lungs, drops it down so that you can breathe deeply. Now you're oxygenating your cells more. You're creating a deeper cerebral spinal fluid flow to your brain. You're helping your central nervous system and your cortisol levels go down. You're doing all kinds of things with that one movement to get your body back to health, boost your immune system, raise your vibration. Is that good?
That's awesome. That's wonderful. And I actually did that earlier today, just a little bit. I had stood up, took that deep breath. It does. It makes such an impact, and it's such a simple thing to do. And you heard all of those benefits that we can have from that simple little breath. So yes. Thank you so much, Ari, for being here with us today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll have another great expert coming on and learning more about how to take charge of your health, simple things you can do today. So thank you very much, and see you later.
Thank you so much.